Now here's your host, Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage.
Ooh, yeah!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports and Metal Podcast. We are your co-hosts. This is Aaron Savage. With me, as always, my partner in crime right over there, Mr. Jason Voorhees. And we are super excited tonight. The Major League Baseball season is just a week away, and we are pumped. We're going to dedicate this episode to the start of the MLB season. That's why the episode's called First Pitch, obviously. Before we get started, though, I want to thank our sponsor, La Terrain Watches. The best in handcrafted watches at the best price point available on the market. You're going to want to check out their website, laterrain.com. That's LA-TOURAINE.com. When you're there, you're going to use our promo code S&M. That's the letters S&M as in sports and metal, and you're going to save 10% off your purchase. So don't forget to check out La Terrain Watches. That being said, dude, let's get it started. Jay, I know you're pumped. You got your Phillies sweatshirt on. You're ready to rock. I'm wearing my son's high school varsity hat. I just left his high school, Freehold Borough High School game here in New Jersey. So shout out to Freehold Borough High School. But yeah, dude, we're pumped up, man. It's time for MLB. What's going on, man?
Absolutely the best time of the year. I mean, you and I have talked about it this is our third season of Sports and Metal, and every year we obviously are pumped for baseball. Obviously, our first year when we started back in June of 2020, that was when COVID was still like in its infancy.
We didn't know if there was going to be a season.
So I remember like a lot of our shows were kind of building up to whether there was going to be a season. So, and then of course, quite a few of our shows earlier this year, we didn't know when the season was going to start. Well, here we are. We're officially less than 1 week away from the start of the first pitch, which will happen on Thursday. So,
and it finally feels great to be talking about what looks like it's going to be a pretty normal season. Knock on wood. But you know what, dude? Big news broke just a little bit earlier today. We're recording this episode on Friday evening, April 1st. And just hours ago, word came down. Last night it came out that Jacob deGrom of the New York Mets, which is my team, had shoulder soreness. They anticipated he was going to be scratched from his last spring training start today, Friday, April 1st. And just like the worst April Fool's joke possible for a Mets fan, it came out. The results of the MRI revealed some kind of shoulder strain. He's going to be out for quite a while. They're saying it looks like a best case scenario, June 1st. And everything I'm hearing, this is the type of injury that if he were to overwork it, it would lead to a rotator cuff surgery. I mean, it could be theoretically career threatening. And dude, I mean, as a Mets fan, it's brutal. I mean, and this is something that reverberates throughout the league. We're talking about one of the best pitchers in baseball. But dude, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say if I said I was surprised, I'd be lying to you after last season. And you know what? In recent times, Jacob deGrom has gotten this reputation of being injury prone. And I think that's kind of not fair. It's not knowledgeable because he wasn't injury prone. He wasn't getting a lot of wins because the Mets weren't scoring for him. Those two Cy Young seasons. But you don't win Cy Youngs being injured. I mean, he was making 30, 32 starts. He had one injury season earlier in his career. His second year, I'm not looking at his numbers right now, and he still made half of his starts that year. But I mean, he was always healthy until last year. And the thing that I think is causing this, or at least contributing to it, you look at Jacob deGrom earlier in his career, he threw hard. He threw 95 his fastball. But, dude, he wasn't consistently throwing 99, 100 miles per hour like he is now. It's like, as great as he is, I would be fine if he was slightly less great, but healthy and throwing 95. Because you know what? As great as he is when he's on the mound, he's worth nothing if he's not on the mound. And that's where we're at now. I mean, I think he's got to bring it back, dude. I think the last 4 years is when it kind of really started, where this guy's like blowing up the radar gun. And it's not a coincidence that he's starting to break down. And he's in his 30s now. He's 33 years old. Jay? I mean, I think he's got to tone it back.
I mean, honestly, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, as an outsider, obviously, I don't get to see Jake deGrom on a daily basis, obviously like you, during the season. But, I obviously as an outsider, I still am a huge fan. I love what Jake deGrom brings to the table. But like you said, if he's not on the field, he's not helping the team. And I don't think it's just Jake DeGrom per se. I think this is an issue, and you're raising an issue that I think you've actually brought this up on other shows like a year ago about the amount of guys that are getting hurt because they're throwing so hard.
Yeah,
it's not just Jake DeGrom. It's almost like an epidemic in baseball where, not only have we saw like obviously the rise in analytics and, obviously strikeouts or home run is like the way to go now as far as the mentality, but like it's the same in pitching. It's almost like, let me just see how hard I can throw the ball and get it past you. And like all these guys that are coming up now, they're throwing like 98, 99. And it is kind of scary because if you think about it, the human arm is not really made to do that. Like if you think about it, I mean, I don't know how I'm 45. I've never like actually thrown a ball and had it like a radar gun on it and saw how fast I could throw the ball. But I'd probably be lucky to hit 60, dude.
Yeah, I mean, no, when you were young, I'm sure you did, like at the fair or at a ball game. But, dude, you're right. I mean, even then, we might hit 60, 65. So when these guys are throwing that hard, well, that's why they're the best of the best, right? That's why they're in the big leagues. But guess what? A lot of guys had great big league careers throwing mid-80s, upper 70s. We've seen it. Most recently comes to mind, what was that reliever? What was this, Bradley something? I'm drawing a blank. I'm going to sound like a fool.
Archie Bradley, right?
Is that the guy I'm thinking of? I don't know. But, dude, I mean, think about it. Charlie Hough, I think of. You think of, like, certain knuckleballers in the past. You think of guys like Phil Niekro. Rick Reed, who was like a scab player and then had really great success with the Mets in the early 2000s. Greg Maddux made a Hall of Fame career out of it. Tom Glavine. And these guys were able to be durable because they didn't throw the ball through the wall. Think about it, dude. You can have a great career. The problem is the value has been placed on strikeouts and home runs. That's it. But that's also what's kind of like caused the game to not be as good as far as like viewership. It's a boring game. So, but anyway, we're focused on the DeGrom thing. This obviously is our MLB preview episode, so I'm going to bring that banner up here. But we could still talk about Jake. I just want to know, as a Phillies fan, how do you think this Jacob DeGrom injury affects the division, the National League East?
I mean, the way that it's being reported, it says it's pretty serious and it could be a long-term thing.
Well, like I already said that, so we know that. So I want to know what you think. What do you think the fallout is here?
Well, that being said, I mean, it's hard not to think that it doesn't kind of even the balance of power. I mean, coming into the season, and this was before the Phillies signed Nick Castellanos, when we had just signed Schwarber, I was still saying that the Phillies were kind of, I don't want to say wavelengths, but like they were below the Mets as far as like roster construction and where they were. Because let's face it, a lot of people right now, obviously, listen, you're not going to argue and say that the Mets lineup is just as good as the Phillies. It's not. But I think people sleep on the Mets lineup. So I'm not one of these people that thinks, oh, the Mets are just some team that can't hit the ball and all they are is pitching. I agree that they have a decent roster. But losing a guy of Jake DeGrom's status definitely evens the balance of power. And I'm looking at it from a perspective from the Phillies, being a Phillies fan, but also as a baseball guy. The Mets are lucky that they signed Scherzer now because honestly, like it's almost like you had two aces. And, obviously you lose DeGrom, but you also went out and traded for Chris Bassett, who I had him last year on fantasy, which, by the way, I actually have a fantasy draft tonight. So if I drift off for seconds and I seem like I'm not paying attention, it's because I have to make my pick. I didn't expect it to actually be the same time as my show, but they pushed it up. So anyway, I had Chris Bassett last year for fantasy in one of my other leagues, and I love the guy. And it's not like he's old. I believe he's like 31. He's but he was very good coming up, with the A's. And when the Mets traded for him, I was pissed off because I was like, that's a guy I would have loved the Phillies to, target. And obviously they didn't. But I look at Chris Bassett now, like the Mets getting him is almost like an insurance policy for losing a guy like DeGrom. And I'm not saying he's on DeGrom's level, but he's an ace. He was an ace for the A's. And it's almost like you have a third ace. And then don't forget, you also have Cookie Carrasco, who a couple of years ago, was an ace himself. So the Mets have quite a good pitching staff.
Yeah, and they had Taijuan Walker, was an all-star last year. He did break down the second half, but it was his first full season in quite a while. I'll chime in here a little bit. I do think the DeGrom injury hurts the team, but I do agree with you. I think they have the depth that they should be able to get through it. Where I disagree with you, I think the Mets lineup could be just as good as the Phillies lineup.
Yeah,
that's where I disagree. And we can argue all day. We can argue all day. Well, hear me out. Hear me out. Because I'm going to tell you this. You're forgetting that 2 years ago, the Mets pretty much led the league in every offensive category. They have pretty much the same lineup. The difference was last year, and even you have to admit this, they had some guys that just fell off the table, and it was like inexplicable, except for the fact that they got rid of Chili Davis, who I think the team really bought into his approach. He had more of like a make contact, move runners along approach. They brought in Hugh Quetelbaum. Everything went to pull, at launch angle, which is an epidemic in the game, as we've discussed. Jeff McNeal, 2 years ago, we were talking about this guy's going to win a batting title. What changed in 12 months that Jeff McNeal still can't be that hitter? I'm just saying. And then you had Lindor, dude. Lindor. If we erased last year and we were talking about the Mets having just signed Lindor, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And you even have to admit that. We wouldn't even be having this conversation because we'd be talking about a guy that we both think is going to hit 300 with 28 bombs, 100 RBI, 100 runs, 15 steals, and a gold glove at shortstop. So, I mean, I think we're both going to have to sit here and be honest with ourselves and say there's no way that Lindor is going to duplicate last season's numbers. And in fact, if spring training is any sign of things to come, he's hitting like 470 with 4 homers, 10 RBI. I'm not saying that the Phillies might not have a better offense. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not a homer. I'm not biased. I think you're being a little bit biased here. And that's fine. You're excited for the season. I don't blame you for that. The Phillies, they went past the luxury tax. I don't blame you for being pumped. You have every right to. I'm simply responding to that. And I'm being honest with you. I'm not definitively saying, because let's be honest, the Los Angeles Dodgers probably have a better lineup than both of us. Dude, I don't forget the Dodgers. But I'm simply saying the Mets can hit with anybody. And I think they're coming off some real down seasons last year. And then you got a guy who's like the odd man out, who's like kind of the wild card. He's either going to contribute and he's going to be the guy that can hit until he's 50, or he's just going to be a guy that the Mets don't necessarily need to worry about, because with Steve Cone having taken over ownership of the team, money's obviously not an issue with this squad. So the guy I'm talking about, Robinson Cano, he's either going to put up numbers that Robinson Cano puts up, and that's going to be a huge boon to this team offensively. Let's be honest. We're talking about a guy without the steroid stuff is a Hall of Fame player. You're forgetting about that he's on this team, and he's back, and he's healthy. He's either going to be Robinson Cano, or he's not, and the Mets are just not going to play him. Because it's not going to be like the Phillies or the Mets of years past where, oh, we got this guy on the payroll for $20 million, we have to play him. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. He's either going to perform or he's going to sit. So that being said, then you talk about Starling Marte. This is a guy that stole 47 bags last year, hits 300, and has pop. I'm just saying, dude, the Phillies have some boppers, but they're also in a bandbox, and that also juices some of those numbers. Because another thing we've seen, and I'm fueling the rivalry right now, and I'm glad to do it. One thing we've seen, the Mets always go into Citizens Bank Park and feel like everybody's Babe Ruth. And I see it because you don't see the Mets every day, just like I don't see the Phillies every day. So, like, I'm looking at it from a perspective, the Mets play in this pitcher's park, and they put up good offensive numbers in this pitcher's park. Pete Alonso hit 50 home runs playing his home games at Citi Field. That's quite an accomplishment. When you think of Aaron Judge, Pete Alonso broke Aaron Judge's rookie home run record back in 2019. Aaron Judge played at Yankee Stadium, which is like the American League version of Citizens Bank Park. The ball just flies out of that place. You look what Pete Alonso did at Citi Field. So back to what I was saying, you take me from a Mets perspective. Whenever the Mets go into Citizens Bank Park, dude, I feel like I'm watching pinball. The Mets hit. The Mets hit. And that's why the Mets have played the Phillies so well, in my opinion, in recent years. Now, just to show I'm not a homer, I'm going to say something that I'm down on. with the DeGrom injury. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, and it's something that's going to make you smile. The biggest mistake the Mets have made in the last 3-4 years was not re-signing Zach Wheeler, who has been a huge boon to your franchise. Now, I know he had some soreness in spring training. Is he going to be ready for the opening of the season?
Yes.
He is supposed to be. But, dude, I'm telling you, he's your guy right there, man. He's a wild card for the Phillies, and I really do believe if Steve Cohen had bought this team 2 years sooner, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He obviously would have signed Wheeler. Here's what pisses me off about the Mets, Jay. The Mets traded for Wheeler when they traded Beltran way back when to get Wheeler, who was the number one prospect, top pitching prospect in the game from the Giants. They get him. He battles some injuries. After 7 years, the Mets finally see glimpses of what they were waiting for out of this guy. The number one draft pick, the ace of aces. The Mets saw it in his last year at Citi Field. He was showing it. And anybody that's a Mets fan will tell you, you could see what was coming. This guy was hitting his stride. He was in his prime. And I remember you being like, oh, we should have got Cole. We signed Wheeler. And I remember saying to you, dude, the Phillies are better off. The Yankees paid double the amount for Cole. And I said to you, I guarantee you over the next 5-6 years, Wheeler's going to have comparable or better numbers than Garrett Cole. And so far, all I can say to that is I told you so. Because Wheeler has been nothing short of an ace, and you're paying half of what they're paying Cole. And every Mets fan is sitting here going, God, gee whiz, he should be on our team right now. The Mets fans saw it, and they knew the cheap Wilpons didn't want to fork out the money. And they actually sold the agenda that he was getting too much, that the Phillies overpaid. And you look at what the market is now. What free agents are getting. Guys that are turning down qualifying offers that have been hurt and then signing like freaking $250 million contracts. The money in MLB is insane that's getting thrown around. So the Phillies got a real stud right there. And I'm jealous.
Well, thank you for the...
I give credit where it's due.
Yeah, thank you for the vote of confidence. No, I mean, in all fairness, like I said, I think I prefaced my intro by saying that a lot of people are sleeping on the Mets lineup, me not being one of them. But all I'm saying is that if you look at player for player up and down the lineup, the Phillies lineup overall is probably not only is it American League type lineup, yes, they're going to strike out a lot. They're going to play horrible defense, but they are going to hit some home runs. And
they're
like
going to hit home
the
runs.
way I look at it is
in that ballpark, especially.
Honestly, yeah, and you know what? You can't blame a team for their ballpark. I mean, the Phillies play there; that's where they play. I mean, so in fairness, I'll take that advantage any day of the week.
I get it.
My concern for the Phillies is the pitching staff, and other than Zach Wheeler, because let's face it, we have Aaron Nola, who I know you're a little bit higher on than I am, but Aaron Nola to me is a guy that is extremely inconsistent, has been inconsistent the past 2 or 3 years. He's not the Aaron Nola. Could he be the same Aaron Nola of 2018 that almost won a Cy Young? Yes. I don't think he's like lost it per se, but if you look at his pitch tracking, when he struggles, it's when he struggles to get command of his fastball. That's when he tends to struggle a lot, and he leaves the ball over the plate. And if you look at his last couple of years, he's given up a lot of home runs, which is why a lot of times he ends up with these crooked numbers where he gives up like 5 or 6 runs because he gives up a 3-run home run in like the 7th inning when they bring him back out. Now, like I said, Aaron Nola is capable of being an ace, but he's not showing the ability to be consistent.
But you gave an example that I kind of like used to support an Aaron Nola. That's an example of where sometimes the stats lie. When you're talking about games where a guy like Aaron Nola is coming out for the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and in that late inning he's giving up the crooked number, bro, that's throwback. And I'm totally cool with it. It's so easy to see these guys, like you saw Trevor Bauer do it a couple of years ago when he won that Cy Young in the 60-game season. When guys are coming out of the gate throwing 100 miles an hour, as we've talked about, but they're only giving you 5 innings, and they leave after 5 shutout innings with 97 pitches. So, of course, they're going to finish the year with like a 170 ERA. The game has changed so much, and the numbers are skewed. It's not like the old days where guys went 7, 8, 9 innings. So, yeah, maybe a guy's throwing a 2-hit shutout through 7, and maybe the score of that game is 1-0. They're on the losing side. And you ride your gun into the 9th, and maybe he gives up 2 in the 9th, and you lose 2-1. He gets a loss. He gives up 2 runs, but he doesn't get 7 shutout innings because you left him in there. Or maybe he gets the shutout. I'm just saying the game has changed. So I'm not going to fault Aaron Nola. I think the thing with Aaron Nola, besides that, I just think guys go up and down a little bit. And I think the Phillies fans are being way too hard on Aaron Nola. I think Aaron Nola could come out of the gate this year and have a big year. I'm a big fan of Aaron Nola. I mean, any guy that gives you innings, especially in today's game, and puts up consistent numbers like Aaron Nola pretty much does, I'm a fan. I'm not down on him like the Phillies fan. I like Aaron Nola. I'll take him on the Mets right now.
but I think you're missing I'm not necessarily down on him. What I'm saying is every year it's a what if with him. And that's
what I'm saying. I don't really think it is. Yeah, but I know the Phillies fans do because I hear them. We're friends. I hear it. I hear it. I hear the noise. I just don't think it is. I think you're talking about a guy that's pitching in a park that's very tough to pitch in, had a big year a couple years ago, and you're holding him to that standard. And at the end of the day, he's a gutsy guy that gives you innings. And like you said, okay, everybody's got a bad start sometimes, but sometimes he is the guy that gets out there into the 7th inning and gives up that crooked number in the 7th. That's going to bloat his ERA. But I'd rather have that than a guy that doesn't give me more than 4 2/3 every time out, which is the standard that we're living in now in Major League Baseball. That's just my opinion.
And that's fair. I understand where you're coming from. Okay, so Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. Then you have Zach Eflin.
But to me, the bigger guy you're missing is Ranger Suarez.
Ranger Suarez, second season. He's sophomore season. So a lot of times these guys, the sophomore year, they have a slump.
I think the Phillies pitching could be better than you think it could be.
If Ranger Suarez comes out like he did last year, yes, then I think then you're right. Then I think, wow, the Phillies really have something here. But my thing is that I'll believe it when I see it. And maybe that's the negadelphia coming out in me because I'm used to Philly, Phillies bringing up guy, from their farm system pitching wise more so than anything. Obviously, other than Cole Hamels and Aaron Nola, we haven't really developed anybody. So, yes, my concerns are legitimate is what I'm getting at if you look at our track record. Now, could Ranger Suarez end up becoming like the next thing? I mean, yes. I think he looked very good last year at times. I know Kyle Gibson, who's basically our 4th starter or 5th starter. We got him from Minnesota. And I know, you play fantasy baseball. He's like one of them he's just an average guy that doesn't have a high ERA and he won't strike out a lot of guys. But, okay, he's a good 5th starter. So, like I said, the Phillies pitching is definitely not a strength, but it's a concern for me. And maybe that's where we differ.
Well, you know what? Let's make some predictions, and let's start with our division since we're talking about the Mets and Phillies. Who do you pick to win the NL East?
Well, before DeGrom, I picked the Mets, believe it or not.
I know I'm going to sound like a homer here, but I do pick the Mets. I'm not sleeping on Atlanta. I think the Phillies have improved. I think it's going to be an exciting division. The reason for my pick is I just think that the Mets are a team that has a lot of talent, and I think they have the ownership that's looking to push this group to the promised land. I really do. I see it. The Grom thing hurts. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it would have been an easier pick to make with a healthy Jake, but like I told you, I'm not surprised. As much as I didn't want to have to get to this point and say that, I'm not. It's like, in a sick way, I almost accepted it. It's like I said, it's a cruel April Fool's joke that turned out to not be a joke, but yet you expected it. It's bizarre. But I think the Mets offense is a lot better than you think it is. I think they've shored up the defense. Dude, you have Lindor's a stud defender. You brought in Starling Marte. He's a stud defender. The Mets have Pete Alonso's improved at first base. I mean, you're forgetting they got Escobar. He hit 25 jacks last year, 80 RBI. They got a lot of offense, dude. They're a faster team than the Phillies. They're a better defensive team than the Phillies. They have a lot more pitching depth. Atlanta, we can't sleep on them, but they did lose Freddie Freeman. I know they brought in Olsen to replace him, but I never expected Atlanta to win it last year. That was just me. I'm not saying they're not a very talented team, but I just don't see them repeating.
That's the problem with Atlanta, though. Every year I say that.
And then here they are.
Every year they do. And I know, yes, everyone was like, oh, my God, they got rid of Freddie Freeman. But let's not sleep on Matt Olson.
I'm not. Like I said,
Matt
I just
Olson
don't see
actually
the
looks
repeat.
like the real deal. I mean, obviously that's why they moved on from Freeman. I mean, I guess they figured, Olson's a younger version.
Yeah. Who do you got in the NL Central? Let's move it along.
Well, for me, I mean, it's hard to go against the Brewers. I mean, the Brewers pitching staff is slept on. I mean, you got two aces on the Brewers. You got Brandon Woodruff and you got Corbin Burns. And then, oh, by the way, you have Josh Hader, who's probably maybe the best closer, because not only is he a closer, he can do everything. I think he's one of the best relievers we've seen in maybe the past 10, 15 years. I'm not kidding. Like, to me, he's like a Mariano Rivera. That's how dominant he is. And I know that's sacrilege to say, but Josh Hader, watch him if you haven't. The guy is just filthy.
He is.
So, and but then again, once again, I never sleep on the Cardinals, because the Cardinals to me are a team. Once again, every single year they're in the mix. So I got the Brewers winning the Central, but don't sleep on the Cardinals. Obviously, the Reds, they have a lot of young talent, but I don't think they have the mix to get it done.
You kind of just hit on my pick. I actually think the Cardinals win the division. I know the Brewers are loaded. I still feel the magic of Wainwright and Yachty. Yachty's on his farewell tour. And then look who they brought back. Albert Pujols for one final season. I think the Cardinals take the NL Central in a throwback season with the three guys that were there back in 2006 when they beat the Mets in Game 7 of the NLCS. The Wainwright curveball that left Beltran frozen after the game they couldn't lose after the Andy Chavez catch. When all the magic was there, the Mets have to win this game. Cardinals win it. Cardinals magic is back. Cardinals win the NL Central. That's my pick. Who do you got in the NL West, Jay?
I mean, how can you go against the Dodgers? Although, like I said, last year you had the Giants with a magical season.
It's true. You never know.
And, they fought down to the wire. But I think the Dodgers today solidified themselves as probably returning to the World Series. I mean, they just got Craig Kimbrell.
Yep,
and
they just
added the closer. Craig Kimbrell, another guy that's a stud. And so it's basically like they're not losing a beat. They let Jansen go, and now you
to Atlanta. Speaking of the devil, yep.
So the Dodgers for me. I mean,
yeah, I agree. The Dodgers are a no-brainer. Let's go through the American League really quick. Who do you got in the AL East?
Dude, I mean, I just love that the Yankees are not my pick. I got the Blue Jays. I know a lot of these picks are like kind of, I don't want to say
the trendy picks.
The trendy pick, but how do you pick against the Blue Jays? Look at the
I'm 100% with you, dude. That young lineup is stacked.
And the pitching. They have
the pitching. I'm
Robbie
100%
Ray,
with you.
Ryu. I mean, the Blue Jay, and they don't forget Mcneal, or not Mcneal, Manoa. He was their guy he was like the number one prospect in baseball, like the number one pitching and they brought him up last year. He had a great year. So he's on that staff.
Yep, I agree 100%. Who do you have in the AL Central?
AL Central to me is Chicago White Sox.
I'm going with the White Sox. Dude, I feel
like
what about in the West? Who do you got in the West?
I'm going Mariners.
Okay. I'm going Astros.
I know everyone wants the Astros or thinks the Astros, but
I'm going to the Astros until they prove me otherwise. Let's do a couple more bold predictions while we're at it. Why don't you give me let me throw something at you. NL Cy Young Award winner.
NL Cy Young Award winner. Well, it's not going to blow your mind because you actually agreed. You believed that he would do it.
Who?
Or could do it.
Zach
Wheeler. I'm going with the home. I
know it's Homer. We're both going Homer here. I'm going Max Scherzer.
Okay.
I think Scherzer is going to dominate with this team. I think Mets are going to put up enough offense for him. He's going to get the wins. Now with Jake out, he's the number one guy. I'm going to ride Scherzer to the Cy Young. But yes, Zach Wheeler is going to be in contention. How about your NL MVP pick?
My MVP pick, I'm going Bryce Harper back-to-back.
Ooh.
And the reason I'm saying that is because they added Schwarber and Castellanos to a lineup that was already basically led by Bryce on his back. it's going to make it so much easier, and his numbers are going to be better this year. So I'm going Bryce Harper again.
I'm going Juan Soto. I don't think the Nationals are going to be that great of a team, but I think they're going to be decent enough that they might stick around a little bit. And I think Juan Soto is just going to have one of those transcendent seasons. I think he's going to be an absolute beast. I think he's going to be a runaway NL MVP. How about your AL Cy Young Award winner?
This is going to be a real bold prediction. Justin Verlander.
No, he's going to be on too much of a limit coming off the surgery. I love Justin Verlander. I mean, I think he's going to come back and he's going to be the Justin Verlander of old. I'm with you there. But I just don't think he's going to have enough innings to be a Cy Young Award winner. Or
I do, but that's
my opinion. That's my opinion. AL Cy Young Award winner. That's tough for me. I'm going with your guy on the White Sox. Was it Giolito?
Giolito.
That's my prediction for the AL Cy Young. And how about for the AL Most Valuable Player Award?
Let's see. So last year it was Shohei Ohtani, right?
Yes, it was.
I'm going to go with the kid from the Blue Jays, Vlad.
He's not a rookie. Oh, I'm saying rookie of the year.
I said the kid.
MVP. Yeah, sorry. You know what? I'm with you on that. 100%. I'm going Vlad on that.
I'm going Vlad. I think the Blue Jays are just going to be monster. I mean, they're going to repeat and then some.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Vlad Guerrero Jr. He's my MVP.
I would say Mike Trout, but once again, I don't think the Angels want. Unfortunately, MVPs usually. I mean, I know Bryce Harper won and he didn't make the playoffs, but
call me crazy. I think right now I'd rather have Vlad than Trout anyway. No disrespect to Trout. I just think Vlad's like entering that elite prime level, and he's going to be.
And Trout's kind of on his way down.
Not necessarily on his way down, but I don't know. I think Vlad's going to put up some serious numbers. Anyway, there's one guy I wanted to touch on before we move on. Cody Ballinger. I just think he's an interesting case. Obviously, he could be almost like the obvious pick for everybody to say for comeback player of the year. And I think that's kind of why I want to talk about him. Have you ever seen a guy? This guy, as a rookie, hit 39 home runs. At the time, that was the National League record until it was broken by Pete Alonso for a rookie. That was a rookie record. His second year, he had a solid year. But he also struck out a ton those first 2 years. Then his third year, it was like he reached like elite level. He was hitting like over 300 throws to the year. He was actually on a pace to have almost 600 at bats and strike out less than 100 times. So he cut his strikeouts like in half. Like early on, he was like a guy that in 600 at bats would strike out 200 times. That was like the pace of strikeouts he had. Brought it all the way down. He actually finished, I think, 580 at bats, something like that, 108 strikeouts. So they got strikeouts spiked a little bit the last month, but that could be attributed to long season. Bat slows down a bit, whatever. Bottom line, finished 47 home runs, 300, 120 runs, 120 RBI, wins the National League Most Valuable Player Award 2019. Then the 2020 60-game season happens, COVID. Kind of has a nightmare year. It was 60 games, so he hit 230, whatever. You wash your hands of it because it was such a small sample. But then 2021 comes, and the guy's hitting like 150 in September. Finishes with like a 167 batting average and like 350 at-bats. What happened to Cody Ballinger, Jay? I don't think I've ever seen a guy at his age fall off the cliff like that. I mean, we've seen guys that were flashing the pans that came up and, lit the league on fire for a month and then didn't do shit. Like Kevin Moss on the Yankees comes to mind, or there was that other guy. I'm drawing a blank right now, but we've seen guys do that, come in, hit 12 home runs in a month. Like, who's this guy? The next Babe Ruth? And then you never hear from him. But not Cody Bellinger. The guy had a track record. Rookie of the year, MVP, improving year after year the first 3 years. What happened? And what do you think's going to happen moving forward? Does he rebound?
I think he will rebound. It's hard for me to tell, how a player can go that far off the face of the earth. But I do know that baseball, more so than any other sport, is a game where it's very streaky. And there's certain players that are super streaky to the point where it's kind of ridiculous. Like
Michael
they go on,
on the Mets comes to mind.
Bryce Harper did that one. I know he went through a 2-month stretch, and when I was like freaking out and saying like, why did they sign this guy? I think you might have remembered that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could, he couldn't hit the ball, and it was like, I just think maybe with Bellinger it was just a long-term slump, like to the point.
I'm kind of with you. I'm with you, but it's still like unprecedented.
Well, I agree. That's why I'm saying it's a tough question to answer, because I don't know, and I don't necessarily have an answer to how you could go that far after being
at such heights,
at such a level.
Yeah. I will make my bold prediction about Cody Ballinger. I think he rebounds. I think I'm gonna say something like 275, 35 homers, 100 RBI, 95 runs, 560 at bats, 120 strikeouts. I think we get a decent year from Ballinger. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think he's going to rebound. I mean, I wouldn't say to the point where his average is over 300, but I think he will hit. I think he's going to hit 40 jacks.
I think it's right. I think it's in the cards.
I feel it coming.
Before we move on to the picks of the week, which is going to be our final segment, I did add a little surprise segment here. Kind of didn't anticipate it, but I figured how could we not touch on it? And it kind of, we're talking baseball, right? Remember the shot heard around the world? Bobby Thompson's home run against the Brooklyn Dodgers. But the Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. Remember that?
I do.
How about we talk about the slap heard around the world? I had to do it, dude. I had to. It does, it's got a little baseball feel to it. The slap heard around the world. Jay, I want to know your thoughts. Are you in Team Chris Rock? Are you on Team Will Smith?
Chris Rock.
That's the answer I was hoping. I will tell you this. I'm going to give it a quick opinion, and I'm going to move on. If we're living in a world where comedians can't crack jokes at audience members, can't roast people, especially in circumstances where said comedian was brought in specifically to poke fun at the audience members in attendance at an award ceremony, if they can't poke fun without the risk of being physically assaulted, then we have really gotten into a situation where we've got a major problem. People need to stop being so offended, stop being so thick-skinned. I actually went back and watched Chris Rock's opening monologue at the 1999 MTV Video Music Awards just to get some perspective. And if you heard the shit he said then, he wouldn't get away with it now in this cancel culture we're living in. And the funny thing is, he made a joke, I forget about somebody, but at the 1999 MTV Awards, somebody in the audience, might have been Puffy or something, and he goes, I'm going to get my ass kicked, but he made the joke anyway. How prophetic was he? 22 years later, whatever, here you are, you're getting your ass kicked by Will Smith. And the funny thing is, when I watched that 1999 MTV Video Music Awards intro, he was insulting everybody, making cracks, but it was all in fun. Everybody was laughing because they know it's a joke. And guess who's one of the people they kept showing laughing in the audience back in 1999? Will Smith! Will Smith! Will Smith! Yeah! Oh, God, if you haven't watched it, go back. I'm sure a lot of our audience, they're around our age. I'm sure we were watching MTV back then. That was when, like, Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock, Eminem, they were actually still playing videos back then. That was when they started playing a lot of shows. But you still got some videos. Not like the way it is today, but go back and watch it. I remembered it, so I was like, let me go back and watch it. One thing I always remember Chris Rock that I always cracked up, I'll just say it now. I remember on one of the award ceremonies, he was talking about Britney Spears. It was when she had Oops, I Did It Again was her big hit. And I remember he goes, Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. Bitch, what the fuck did you do the first time? Love you, Chris Rock. Love you. All he said is, I love you, Jada. G.I. Jane 2. Can't wait to see it. He didn't say anything about alopecia. He didn't say... G.I. Jane was Demi Moore, who shaved her head for the role, considered one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. So you could actually make the argument that he complimented her, saying G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. It's a joke. You're in the audience. You know Will Smith's he talked about Will getting an award. No, I'm glad to hear it. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. Team Chris Rock all the way. Team comedians all the way. We need comedians, guys. Comedians give us levity in times of trouble, in times of chaos. Comedians make us laugh. They give us levity. If you can't laugh at a joke, then you need to go look in the mirror and ask yourself, why? What is going on in my life that I'm so angry? Because I'm telling you right now, it's crazy what happened. But I'll move on, bro.
Aaron is sports and medals comedian.
I don't know about all that, but let's move on. We talked baseball all show, so why don't we get into music a little bit, Jay?
Absolutely.
Wrap it up. We got our picks of the week segment. And, dude, I'm pumped. A great album came out just today that I've actually been looking forward to. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, Unlimited Love. That's my pick of the week. The full album just dropped today. It's the reunion album with John Frusciante, who hasn't been with the band in over a decade. And, dude, and they brought Rick Rubin back to produce the record. So, he's produced, some of their biggest records, including the masterpiece Blood Sugar Sex Magic. So Rick Rubin's back in the fold. John Frusciante's back in the fold on guitar. And, dude, this album sounds like vintage Chili Peppers, John Frusciante style. It's got a lot of those, like, really moody guitar riffs and arpeggiated guitar arpeggiated guitar progressions. Sorry for the tongue twister. And it's got like some of the scat rap of Anthony Kiedis, the funk stuff. It's got a lot of those mellow vocals. It's got the big hooks in the choruses. And it's just a really solid Chili Peppers album. The first single, Black Summer, was released back in February. Excellent tune. Second track on the album kicks right in, Here Ever After. It's got a little bit of scat rap, and it's a really good record. And you could just feel the magic is back with the Chili Peppers. And I saw a quote, Rick Rubin was so excited when he was in the studio with these guys, and he said he cried when he saw the Chili Peppers back with John Frusciante. He just felt like these musicians are meant to be in a room together playing, and it's real refreshing. So that's my pick of the week. I'm gonna be short and sweet with it. Go pick it up. It's the Red Hot Chili Peppers brand new album, their 12th studio album. It's called Unlimited Love. And if you like a lot of the old Chili Pepper stuff with John Frusciante, you're gonna love this record. You're not gonna be disappointed. Pick it up. That's my pick of the week. What do you got, Jay? What do you got for us?
Hell yeah, love me some Chili Peppers, brother.
Of course, bro. What do you got for us?
Anyway, so my pick of the week, I'm going back to the Swedish hole again.
Okay.
So
you went down that Swedish rabbit hole.
I told you that I've been, kind of going through Amazon, and I bring up all the new albums, and so this is once again sticking to that theme. So my album comes from the band Sabaton. It was just recently released March 4th, and the album is called The War to End All Wars. It's basically a concept album. It's the sequel to their last album, which was called The Great War, and it basically the songs are about World War I. There's a song Race to the Sea, which is about the Treaty of Versailles. There's a song Dreadnought, but my absolute favorite song on the record, it's actually kind of like if power metal could have a ballad, it's a power metal ballad. But it's hard for me sometimes to call those kind of songs ballads, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So how would you describe the sound? Like compare it to some other bands?
Well, it has piano, but I mean, honestly, it kind of reminds me of like a Judas Priest type song, but like
no, but I mean the band in general, the album, like to our audience that might not be familiar with this band.
So,
like, give me a comparable band that they would say, "Hey, I want to check this out." Somebody that they might sound like.
They actually kind of sound like Accept, but it's more of like a Swedish feel, and the guitar
got like a more cleaner vocal.
Yeah,
okay.
But it does kind of remind me of Accept.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm really getting into the Swedish metal, and I definitely highly suggest this record if you haven't checked it out. That's my pick of the week. The War to End All Wars. Awesome
pick, brother. Anyway, it's been another great show. As always, we hope everybody enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, we want to hear them. We got a friend of the show, Fred DeFeo, checking in. Hey, yo. We got John Doherty, another fan here. Great show. Enjoy listening to you guys. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the feedback. We love hearing from you guys. If you have questions you want us to answer, ask them. Message us on social media at Sports and Metal. You can email us. Make sure you check out our website, www.sportsandmetal.com. Also, I wanted to make a little announcement or big announcement. We have another show that we do. It's called And the Gavel Will Rock. We haven't really done it in a long time. We're actually rebooting it. Look for that in the coming week. I'm not going to tell you what albums we're going to be debating, but a little background about the show. It's basically Jason and myself battling it out. We could argue over what is the best Metallica album. We could argue over what's a better band lineup, Van Halen or Van Hagar. Whatever is on the table in rock and metal, we're going to argue it. We're going to debate it in a courtroom setting. And it's called And the Gavel Will Rock. That's our other show. Make sure you check it out. We're going to be rebooting that. We're looking forward to it. Again, check out our website. Check out our social medias. You go to our website, you can find our blog. You can find back episodes of the podcast. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, La Terrain Watches. Please check them out. You're not going to regret it. You go to their website, laterrain.com. That's LA-TOURAINE.com. You're going to use our promo code SNM. That's the letters SNM, as in sports and metal. You're going to save 10% off your purchase. So let's get ready for some baseball. Oh, quick football note. I saw the Dolphins just signed Xavier Howard to an extension. Had to sneak that in as a Dolphin fan. I'm pumped. But anyway, as always, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Rock on.
Peace out.
And that's our show. Tune in next time for more Sports and Metal with Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage. Woo, yeah! Got something to say? Hit us up at sportsandmetal0423 at yahoo.com or on Twitter at sports.